Good morning, everybody. To start today's video, I actually want to tell you guys about a video I'm gonna be doing, and I'm telling you because I need your help. The video is gonna be called Past versus Present with my dad, and he is going to be taking players now versus players then. Keep in mind, my dad is like 60 years old, so any player from 1970 and up, he's probably gonna know. And try to keep the positions the same within your question, you know, so he can have an even comparison. Like do Randy Moss or Justin Jefferson, not Randy Moss or Delvin Cook. It's, you know, two different positions. It's kind of odd. So leave a good question in the comment section of this video, and my dad's possibly gonna answer it coming up. Anyway, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video and happy Tuesday. As far as today's video goes, I am going to be giving you guys an updated version of my power rankings. I haven't done a power ranking video in like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, something like that, close to a month, so we're definitely due for one. But before we get into it, I got a couple of quick plugs. One, head over to gfuel.com, use code WyattzWorld to save yourself a discount on any G Fuel products. Secondly, if you're 18 years or older, you can download Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where code WyattzWorld will match up to $100 of your first deposit. And lastly, guys, if you are looking for an awesome, unique gift to get your parents this holiday season, head over to parentpresents.com. The link will be in my description for the ultimate Christmas gift list. All sorts of cool things on here, and they have the link embedded in the description. All right, enough plugging. Let's get into the video. Alright, so here we are at the power ranking tier list. Not that I have to explain anything, but super quick, we got numbers 1 through 32. Obviously, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. So, starting off with number 32, the ass of the league. For me, it is none other than the Houston Texans. We don't need to even beat on this dead horse anymore, man. I give them enough shit the way it is, but seriously, like, you got a running back, a DB, and I think a really good interior lineman. But aside from that, little to nothing good is going for them. They have the 4th worst defense in the league and the absolute bottom offense. Moving on to 31, this one was a toss-up between a couple teams, but I'm actually gonna go with Denver. They are a disaster right now, dude. I know that they have a good defense, they have a good roster, but it's just not working. Fantasy myself and a lot of other people had for this team is officially dead for the season. I'm not saying they're dead completely for the future, but if they don't figure out a way to work that offense and score points, they are going to have a miserable 5 seasons coming up with Russell Wilson. Moving on to number 30, I am going to give it to Chicago, and I don't mean to be disrespectful here. I think I've given Chicago a lot of credit in the past couple weeks, but losing Fields this last week definitely hurt you guys, and honestly, aside from Fields and your offense that is still honestly forming, the team doesn't have a lot. And on to 29, we've got the Rams. Speaking of a disaster, my God. They might be a bottom 2 team after next week. Honestly, like they are just going down, 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 down. I know injuries are hurting them, but like, what else can you say? Defense isn't even playing good there. Like, that's the one thing they've always had. They are arguably the worst team in their division. Their offense ranks second to dead last, right over Houston. They're holding a 3-8 record. They're number 29. All right, and moving on to number 28, we've got the Panthers, I guess. It's close between all these teams, but Carolina had a convincing win this last week, so I guess I can put them up there. Like I said, it's a honeymoon phase that I expect to be very short-lived, but defense played good. Sam Darnold didn't look terrible. DJ Moore got involved again, which made a huge impact. They could ever just be a consistent team, honestly. They're not missing that much. Moving on to 27, I'll take the Saints. Look, I think they're bad, but they're not that bad, and I would definitely take them over Carolina even though they're below them in the division standings, because I think New Orleans has a much better roster and a much more loaded roster. But much like Carolina, they're just so wildly inconsistent week in and week out. Obviously, the coaching situation there could be better, the quarterback situation could be better, but I think they avoid being a bottom 5 team. And that brings us to number 26. This could shock some people, but the Colts. Look, guys, as much as we want to bag on the Colts, you got to understand one thing. They have been playing every opponent very, very closely, besides one game. Or maybe 2. I think they got blown out by Jacksonville at the start of the season and then New England. But other than that, they're typically within a score, and their defense, even though it's incomplete with Shaq Leonard, they're still making stops. They're not a top team, but they could definitely be a lot worse. I'll put them at 26. That brings us to 25. I will give it to the Raiders. I mean, they have a good roster. They just have a bad coach. I was just thinking about this, dude. If the Raiders had Mike Vrabel, they'd be in 2nd place right now. I mean, Carr is not bad. Devontae Adams is one of the best in the league. Josh Jacobs is having a generational generational year right now, for God's sake. And I know they might be banged up, but they still have Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller. Their defense has playmakers. They have Chandler Jones and Max Crosby. Would you believe me if I said they had the 7th best offense in the league right now? Because they do. They're just a horribly coached team. And moving on to number 24, we've got the Steelers. Could be worse, could be better. Listen, man, that defense has been playing so much better with TJ Watt. 2 out of the last 3 games they've won, and the one they lost was super close. I think their offense has potential with Kenny Pickett, but when that potential is actually going to show, I'm not sure. I mean, he already has showed his potential. I'm saying I don't know when he's going to develop. And that brings us to 23. We're going to give it to the Arizona Cardinals. This is another definition of a team that's bad, but they're just not that bad. I mean, they've got quite a few issues going on there. Team chemistry being one, having a bottom 10 defense being one, being a horribly coached team by Cliff Kingsbury being one. But they do show week in and week out, healthy with D-Hop. Kyler's able to use his legs. That offense is extremely capable of generating points. It's just that team isn't very capable of winning games. And that brings us to 22. We'll give it to Green Bay. How high can you really put them right now? Their defense is not playing good. Their offense, I mean, they're fine, but not the best. They're 4-8 right now, historically bad for Green Bay, I think, in the last 10 years. I would say if you want to talk about encouragements, the development of Christian Watson lately has been unreal, and Jordan Love looked really good when he came in. But as a whole, this team has been struggling all year, just not in recent weeks. They missed Devontae Adams bad. They're out of the top 20. And that'll bring us to number 21. I got Detroit. They're not a bad team! 2nd in the NFC North right now. They've outscored any team in the NFC North, including the Vikings. Now, their defense might be dead last, but their offense is the 8th most productive, and they've won 3 of the last 4, barely losing that last game versus the Bills. If you don't like the Lions, fuck you. Moving on to 20, I'll give it to Atlanta. Because I have to. Like, never have I been convinced they were actually decent. I'm still not convinced now, but they find a way to make games interesting, and they find a way to win. I know they lost this last week, but they're 5-7. They're tied essentially with the Buccaneers. It's hard to rag on a team that's doing successful as much as I don't understand it. That takes us to 19, and I'm giving it to Jacksonville. I like them. I've liked them all year. Like I said, I don't care for Doug Dimmadome, but as much as I hate him, I have to give him credit where it's due. The guy's not a terrible coach. Said it before, I think Trevor has made a Josh Allen-esque leap. Travis Etienne has showed that he is going to be a fantastic running back going forward. By the way, he should be good to go. The receivers there, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, having career years. Their defense is making stops. They're making plays. They just beat the Ravens, which is impressive on its own. Fucking me, what the hell was that? Hello? Anyway, I like this team. I like the direction they're headed. They're number 19. All right, moving on to 18, we've got the Browns. Things are going to be a lot different now with Deshaun Watson. They could be really bad. They could be really good. Either way, this team still has the best running back in the league, if you're asking me. They've got a very capable, underrated receiving core. Defense could be better, could be a lot worse. They just got to win over the Bucs. I think 18 is a very reasonable spot. And moving on to 17, speaking of Tampa Bay, it is Tampa Bay. They're just missing a few screws. Well, a lot of screws. And as weird as this may sound, all those screws are mainly on the offense. Their defense is ranked number 9. They're not doing bad. And the thing about their offense is I don't know what's wrong. They shouldn't be any different than they were the 2 previous years. They've got some things to work out, but I wouldn't count them out yet, and I'd put them at number 17. All right, and moving on to number 16, we've got the Patriots, man. They're a scoop of vanilla ice cream. They're as middle of the pack as you can get. Far from the best, far from the worst. They're capable of winning. They're capable of getting their asses absolutely handed to them. Could they have beat the Vikings? Sure, but they didn't. I mean, I really don't have a lot to say about them. I'll see them on Thursday. I'll talk about them more tomorrow. But yeah, they're mid. That brings us to number 15. I'm giving it to Seattle. They've kind of settled down, but kind of not. Like I said, this last week, even though they lost, they played really good. If you would have asked me 2 months ago where I thought this team would be, I probably would have said number 32. But that's not the case at all. They are arguably above middle of the pack. For me, they are middle of the pack. They're playoff contenders. They've got borderline a top 10 offense right now. I think they are top 10 or well above it when it comes to generating points. They were a pleasant surprise this year, and I think 15 is well deserved. All right, 14, we'll go with the Giants. Speaking of really, kind of cooling down, they've had some bad losses in back-to-back weeks. I know one was Dallas, but one was Detroit. Regardless, I still think they are a top half team in the league. I think Daboll has turned it over there. He has really changed the culture. He has turned Daniel Jones into a capable starting quarterback. Saquon has showed that he still is a top 3 back in the league. I just would really like to see their defense start doing a little bit better. They've put so many draft picks into it over the last couple years. And not that they aren't, fine, but they should not be a bottom 11 defense in the league. And 13 will be the other New York team, the Jets. Jets with Zach Wilson, about 20. Jets with Mike White, Joe Flacco, me, or anybody else in this world, number 13. They have the number 5 defense in the league, allowing 17 points a game on average. They allow less points than the Bills. They allow less points than the Eagles. They allow less points than the Chiefs. I mean this in the most complimentary way possible, but their defense is filled with absolute bastards. I have a strong belief that the Jets can make the postseason this year, and if they do not start Zach Wilson again, they will. All right, number 12, Washington. I like Washington. I know people might feel bitter about them. People might feel mixed. They might think they're frauds. I think they're a quality football team, man. I think they got a quarterback who's going to do whatever it takes for that team to win. I think they got a quarterback that the team gets behind right now and supports. They've got a defense that's been growing more and more alive every week. Not only have they saved their season, but I think Ron Rivera saved his job. Talk about someone who doesn't give up. I'm proud of you, Washington. I'm giving you number 12. All right, and that brings us to 11. It is narrowly, barely the Chargers. Sadly, every time I watch this team, it tells me one thing. They're either going to get bounced from the playoffs at the very end of the season, or they're going to get in and they're going to get bounced out in the first round. But that's just a mere thought. I still think, offensively at least, this is a top 5 team in football. They've dealt with injuries. They've dealt with players just simply not performing to the expectations they were supposed to be at, but they still possess a lot of power there in LA. It's just unfortunate that I think they are poorly managed, and until Staley's out of there, they are going to be in a situation very similar to the Cardinals with Cliff Kingsbury. All right, moving on to number 10, I'll take Baltimore. Yeah, they have a very bad problem of giving games away at the end, but the first 3 quarters of every game, you get to see how good that team actually is. Crazy fast receiving core, one of the most dangerous dual threat quarterbacks in football. You got a mastermind at coach and a defense full of guys who can snatch a ball out of the air at any given time. Just stop being the 2021 Minnesota Vikings when the 4th quarter comes up. Like that's seriously all you have to do. All right, moving on to the next team, I will take the Titans. I think they're a really good team, and I think they're good because of Vrabel. They're a very well-coached team. I think you give that team to Josh McDaniels, you give the team to Kevin Stefanski, you give it to Cliff Kingsbury, Zach Taylor. Hell, you give that team to Ron Rivera or Pete Carroll, I don't think they have 5 wins. And now, yeah, they did just come off of a loss. It was a very rare occurrence where Derrick Henry was completely shut out. I don't think they were expecting that. But you best believe week 13, they're going to be coming in with the 1-2 punch combo. You're going to cover Derrick Henry, you're going to get the receiving core to the face. All right, number 8, we got the Bengals. I mean, they're playing excellent football. There's no way around it this year. Top 10 defense, top 5 offense. And most importantly, they've shown that they can battle adversity offensively. Played excellent without Jamar. They played excellent without Mixon. All right, moving on to 7, I'm going to put the Vikings. I know what, they're 9-2. They're not frauds, guys, but I've watched every single game that they have ever played this year. I've watched every game they've ever played in the last 10 years. Good as they look, as good as 9-2 sounds, this team could easily be 7-4, 6-5. Do they have the best receiver with one of the most explosive offenses in the league? 100%. Do I think Kevin O'Connell is not only in contention for coach of the year, but possibly one of the better coaches in football? Absolutely. I love them and I want them to do well, but if they go to the playoffs and their defense looks like it has been, they are getting their asses kicked. All right, that takes us to number 6. We got Dallas. I think they're one of the best all-around teams in the league right now. I think their offense is very complete. I think their defense is loaded. I don't really like Mike McCarthy, but he's been doing very well this year. Like I said, I have a concern with Dak Prescott, but as the weeks go on and as he gets more comfortable, I think he's going to settle in and they're just going to do even better. Number 5, I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I mean, there's no complaints to be said if you're a top 5 team. I could complain, and I'm pretty sure their fan base will agree with me. Your defense still continues to struggle. You guys allow points, you allow yards, but it doesn't matter when you have an offense like that. Like, seriously, it does not fucking matter. 3rd most productive offense in the league, 2nd most passing yards in the league. They've got a very bright future. I'd say they're number 5. Moving on to number 4, we got the Bills. Not where I want them to be at all, but there is some good talking about them. You know, as much as Josh has been struggling in recent weeks, they still have the number 2 offense in all of football. They're still the same Bills on that aspect of things. It's just their defense has taken a big hit. They went from having the number 1 to, I think, the number 12. You know, they lost Von Miller now. They haven't had Trey White. They lost Micah Hyde. They've been missing linebackers every single week. It's been a fucking disaster. So I can't really act like I'm surprised. However, they have shown they're a team that's resilient. They battle adversity. They battle injuries. They find a way to get it done. I think they remain a top 4 team in the league. You can disagree with me if you want, but hey, I'm biased. Moving on to number 3, we got San Fran for now. I think they might be number 2. I don't care if they only have 7 wins. Maybe it's 8 now, guys. They're a juggernaut. I don't think they've lost since they've had Christian McCaffrey. I don't think they've come close to it. In my book, it's them and Dallas at the top when it comes to defense, and offensively, they have more weapons than you could honestly imagine. Now, it does suck Elijah Mitchell just got hurt again. I think he's out for the season, so Christian McCaffrey is going to have a bigger workload, meaning his health is going to be more at risk. But honestly, as long as he doesn't get hurt, your offense is only going to be better. San Francisco ain't a fucking joke, man. They're a Super Bowl favorite for me coming out of the NFC, but for now, I've got to put the Eagles at number 2. Because Jalen Hurts looks so damn good, dude. Like, yeah, it's one thing to have one of the best defenses in the league. It's one thing to have one of the best offenses in the league. It's one thing to have both of those at the same time. But it's another thing to have a guy who is literally fucking Superman. and a coach who knows when to use his powers. I don't know if they play San Francisco this year. They will eventually in the playoffs, and it's going to be the greatest game I've ever seen. Right now, though, the Eagles got the best record in the NFC. They got the best record in the league. I gotta put them at number 2. But they are not number 1. Unfortunately, number 1 is the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Christ almighty, they've by far scored more points than any team in the league. Their defense has actually been playing extremely well this year compared to previous years, at least if you're asking me. A lot of people, including myself, thought they were just going to get worse this year with missing Tyreek. They thought they probably weren't going to win their division. And we were all wrong. They're just as good as they always have been. Right now, I think they rank above everybody in the NFL. Alright guys, and that is going to be all for my updated NFL power rankings. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you already know what to do. Comment, like, subscribe, turn that bell on. I do my best to post on this channel every single day. With everything I just said, I'm going to hop off and get this edited so you guys can all watch it on time. Have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday, and as always, I will see you in the next video.